Now there's no such thing as an actual board stretcher, but I do have a board and I want it to be longer. This is an IKEA panel. It dates back a couple of years, and currently I'm doing some reorg in my shop, and I've made this cabinet here, and we're under lockdown in Ontario, so I'm trying to avoid going out, and I just don't happen to have the right plywood to make a door. And this is sitting here, and it's like, yeah, reduce, reuse. Let's try to find a purpose for this. So I thought I would make this into a door. Problem is, it's 30 inches long, and my cabinet is 32 inches tall. So I need something longer. Now, I also want it to match, these cabinets. So it's going to be painted, and it's sort of your basic shaker type. So here's what I'm going to do, is I've got this, and I had another, again, another one of my test pieces from when I did my IKEA kitchen. I cut an 1.5 inch piece off the end of that, which goes here. I'm going to use dowels to connect that. And this is an 1.5 inch, so this gives me 31.5 inches, which is, you know, the cabinet's 32 inches tall, so I'll get a 1/4 inch reveal top and bottom. Okay, that's no good, because you got a seam. You don't want to see that. Anyways, dowels to connect this, and then I will rip some 1/8 inch thick strips, 2 inches wide, which matches these doors, 2 inch wide panels, and I will glue that all the way down here and across the top, and that will cover the seam. And when we're all said and done, we should have something that looks like a door and acts like a door and has been stretched to be longer than the board was to begin with. So there you go. That's what I'm going to do right now. So I've already cut the piece. Let's knock in some dowel holes. 1, 2, 3. And I roughed this up with a bit of sandpaper, but I don't expect the glue to stick much here, but it should stick nicely in the dowel holes. Let's get some glue in each one. And get a toothpick in there to make sure it is spread around the sides. And I'll run some glue along here, but don't know that that's going to do a whole lot. Still counting on the pieces that I put on the face to do most of the holding. And you know, we're having fun in the shop. It's an experiment. There we go. One stretched board. And just putting a couple of clamps to hold it in place for a bit while the glue sets up. It doesn't need super squeezing. It's not going to be a lot of strength needed. There we go. Now you might have noticed these little holes here. This was from when I was using this as a test piece with my IKEA kitchen. These are going to be covered up by the strips that I'm going to put on the front. And continuing on my theme with recycling on this project, I'm using some old pine boards that I pulled out of my son's closet on a recent project, and that's what I'm going to rip down to strips to make the fake raised panel effect. So I got my stretched board out of the clamps, and this pre-finished surface from IKEA is very slick, so I'm going to go over it with some 80 grit, and hopefully that will help the glue bite, though I will be using lots of pin nails. So down here at this end there were these holes, which this piece nicely covers up. And then up here at this end where we stretched the board, it will also cover it up completely, totally hidden away. And so, I've stretched the board, I've made the door. On the back side, you can see the seam. And on the front, you can't. It's just a cabinet door for shop furniture. I mean, I wouldn't do this on anything super fancy. It was just fun to do this. So, now I need to paint it and get it installed. So that was really the point of this quick little video, but that doesn't seem like a whole lot. So, how about I tell you what's going on in the shop? This is one of these situations where one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. So recently, Rigid, Home Depot, they had their sale and I bought this planer. I've kind of wanted a portable planer. I bought this on one of their sales where it comes with a spare battery and a charger. And then I need to find a place to put it. Where am I going to put this tool? My cabinets are kind of full. And down here I have this drawer where I put a lot of tools. I'll show you a close-up later. And I thought maybe I could try fitting it in here, but right now I had my circular saw in here, I have my jigsaw in here, and I had both my sanders in here. I have two random orbit sanders, and it's just, there's not enough room. I'd already, in fact, I used to have my biscuit joiner in there too, and I found another spot for that. Anyways, getting too long-winded. I was thinking about this drawer, and then that made me think about the sanders, and I'm like, you know, putting the sanders down here is a mistake, because I use them so much. So I'm like, I need to find a better place for the sanders, because that would maybe make some room for the drawer. And then, while I was doing it, I'm like, if I'm going to put that tool in here, I think I finally should replace these drawer slides. So number one, I bought some full extension drawer slides and I'm going to redo that drawer and another one. But I digress. So the sanders. So then I'm looking around for where am I going to put the sanders. I really don't like open shelves. They collect dust. But what else can you do? Long story short, I ended up over here and I made this little shelf with these little hooks in front. This is still kind of a sketch. Little place where I can tuck the sanders and then the cord. I'm not going to coil up the cord. That's just not going to happen. So I just made a spot where I could just drop the cord, or you can just leave it plugged in. So I got the sanders right by the bench. Easy to grab if I'm using the other table, which is right behind the camera. So I used to have my Rigid charger and my Hitachi charger tucked way back in there. And I'm like, you know, the chargers don't need to be that close at hand because you only use them every now and then. You're not using them constantly. They can be tucked into a corner. So I start looking around, where else can I put this charger? Well, I don't just have two chargers. I've got four now because I've got this little compact 12-volt Rigid. I've got my compact 12-volt Hitachi. And then I got these tools a few years ago. So then I had the charger for my Canadian Tire, and it's like, well, that got stuck up here on the shelf. So now I've got three chargers. And then last year I got into the 18-volt Rigid. So I got this 18-volt Rigid charger. Interestingly enough, my brand new planer came with another 18-volt charger. Look at how they've shrunk that down. These charge the same batteries. So as you can see, I've already got a cabinet on the go here, and you can guess that's what I ended up with. I used to have my tapes sort of on the side here, and I had my pocket hole jig was hanging in there, and I cleared out this whole bay. And I built this cabinet to fit into the stud, in between the stud bay. So it's about 5 inches deep. Now, the back of it is a piece of like 1/2-inch pine because I wanted to be able to screw into it. And I don't want to screw into the drywall behind it. Anyways, so the rigid charger was up here. That was number 4. So I already had chargers in a few spots. And if you've been on my channel a long time, you know I sort of have this battery cabinet tucked way out here. So anyways, This is where I'm planning to put my chargers, and I'm building a door for the front of it. I know a lot of people, they just have their chargers out in the open. I don't like having things out in the open. It's a wood shop. Dust is a continual battle. And so I really like to have things either in a drawer or behind a door. So I'm going to put a door here, and that's what I've been building. This door is going to go right there, is the plan. Still needs to get painted, so got to get to that. So it's a little while later, and I've now populated the cabinet with my chargers. I didn't film any of that because, first of all, it's all fiddly in tight quarters, but it also really depends on your own chargers that you have. For instance, this was my rigid charger, and I decided to put the big one away, and I've got just the small one here tucked in, taking up as little space as possible. The 12-volt rigid charger above it, there's no reason why it can't be turned sideways like I did. And I mean, I hope I don't get a fifth kind of charger, but it's kind of nice to know there's a little bit of space still up here. I've got my Canadian Tire charger and my Hitachi charger. Now this charger didn't have any mounting screws. It's just meant to sit on a shelf. So in this one, I just built a couple of little custom shelves here to just sort of wedge it in to suit me. Now, one other thing that I did do is I added a power bar along the bottom so that all the chargers can plug in down here, and then there's just one cord routed through a hole in the bottom of the cabinet to the plug. I kind of like the fact that I could just turn them all on and off with just one switch. I don't know if chargers have phantom loads, but I just like that I can turn them off when they're not in use. And my door has now been painted, so let's get some hinges on it. I'm using these surface mount self-closing hinges because I had them. And I've used them on my other cabinets. They're simple and basic and they work fine. And here, I want this to be the top of the door, which means that the hinges are going to come here. So let's turn it over and lay out the hinges. I'm going to set the hinge 4 3/4 inches from the top and the bottom of the drawer, because that's what I did on my other cabinets. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know if there's some trick to hanging a door like this. I just put it up against it and mark where it's got to go. It helps that there's only one door here, so I don't have to line anything up with anything else. With 2 of the screws in, then I make sure it works. And I think this shelf is a little bit snug. Could have made the door maybe like a 1/16 narrower, but yeah, it's okay. Okay, put in the other 2. There we go. I took this shelf down and I trimmed it back so that the door clears it nicely now. And just as a little reminder, you can see the seam here that shows how I stretched the board. But from the front, just looks like a shaker style raised panel door. Now you look closer, it's fake. It's a slab with some pieces attached, but it looks good, and that's what counts. So I think that's it for my board stretcher project, but let's take one look down below. I mentioned this drawer earlier, and off screen I replaced the old Euro style kitchen slides with some nice full extension slides, and I reorganized the interior. On the left side, I made this raised platform with a gap on the side for the circular saw, so the blade fits into the gap. It holds it nice and high so it's easy to get at, and the it's nicely secure with the blade in that gap. In the front, I put a little divider just along the bottom. This gives me a place to tuck the jigsaw, and you know, life is too short to coil up cords, I know. And in the back, that leaves a nice big space for my new planer. Okay guys, I think that's about it for my board stretching, cabinet building, shop reorganizing video. As always, thanks for stopping by. If you have any questions about what you've seen or about shop organization, drop them down below. I try to get in as many comments as I can, and I think that's about it, so we'll see you on the next one.